Welcome to Momentum Monday. Howard,
Schmiden.
how was your day?
Good. How's yours? So I see you're having trouble. I'm wearing a nice shirt and you're not today. So are you in a fight with your girlfriend?
I'm wearing a nice t-shirt.
You got that shirt at like the Gap for like $6 in the bin.
Okay, I'm not gonna argue about that.
Well, where'd you get it? Did you get it at the Gap?
No.
Okay. Anyways, it looks like an undershirt. Hopefully everything's okay in your end. You're shaving and you're wearing an undershirt and it's 2 p.m. in San Diego. So I'm a little worried about you.
Really nice t-shirt. It's European style, but you don't understand fashion, so I'm not gonna argue.
I'm dressed like Kramer today. Look at me. I'm like Kramer. Okay.
In a couple years, your hair will look like Kramer's too. So
I got a live audience. Rachel's here. She just laughed at that last joke.
yeah, because I'm funny. That's why.
I'm making the college audience is laughing at us, our banter.
Mm-hmm.
Should we even talk about the market?
Yes, that's why we're here.
Why is Venice back in the background? What happened to the other?
So I decided to switch to Venice today.
What do? Do you have a closet for the art, like depending on the mood? What was last week? It was a much nicer setting. What was it last week?
It was a different room, Howard.
Oh, you have 2 rooms? I thought you were in a 1-bedroom walk-up.
Well, let's talk about stocks.
Okay. I don't want to. I just want to go on the record. I have a lot of good ideas. I just don't even. People aren't paying for this. So, oh, wait a minute. We have a sponsor. So let's get to the markets. All our data brought to you by Market Smith. And we're going to start out not looking at our ugly mug. We're going right to the chart.
Yeah.
This says nothing. Market is fine. It's holding above. It's actually doing great. It's holding this breakout to all-time highs, kind of a little pullback, but there's light volume. Like to see this in pullbacks. So many breakouts, Ivan. So much momentum. If you're in the right thing. So I want to take a large tour around past ideas and new ideas. Let's start with biotech. I'm going to pitch you something. I'm going to call today's session Howard the Stockbroker.
Okay.
Okay. So here we have the biotech index. I don't know how many indexes are there. This is IBB?
I'm sure there are several dozens. I'm only familiar with those two, XBI and IBB. They're the most liquid ones.
All right, so we'll go back to IBB as the one I talk about. So hit all-time highs last week, pulled back on really light volume. And I think it didn't hit all-time highs. It hit
52.
Pretty major highs. And then now we see it pulling back on light volume. But with this breakout came like a leader's breakout. And so let's pull up Amgen, which kind of I talked about for the last few weeks. Put on a small trade, preempt it. It was just, old person's idea. I didn't want to chase hot momentum. I'll show you another one that I pre-jumped, but this is Amgen. And today it broke out. Do we close above all-time highs here, Ivan?
Yeah, it's all-time highs.
Volume was not massive. I did add some today on the all-time high. Relative strength's kind of lagging. And this is me cherry picking a little, but I've been following this a long time. If biotech really is going to lead, Amgen is the brand to lead it. It's big. If I were a stockbroker, and this has been a great environment to have been a stockbroker because all your clients are making money because you can constantly rotate them into new areas of strength. This is one that I love.
I think the most exciting thing about Amgen is that look at that sales acceleration from 2 to 4%.
Yeah, I got to do more work. So again, I'm a stockbroker, so I'd be calling you saying, listen, Ivan, I got an idea. We were hot on weed. We got out of Bitcoin in time. We need some exposure to biotech. You're not going to get fired for putting people into Amgen. And this is going to be going on. This is my story, thinking like a stockbroker or what's happening. And the same thing happening with hedge funds. They're chasing performance. They can't go buy these small cap biotechs that have been crushing, and we'll go through a few of them. So I think this Amgen breakout could be the beginning of the end, and this is why you have to be careful with all trades, meaning this breakout could be false, I like the volume on it. But if this breakout is real, this is, 20, 30% potential quick move in a good market as people come into Amgen. And what's helping Amgen is, like you said, Ivan, I don't have to do much work. I can go to IBD and see that, $14 earnings per share. Well, the earnings is not a huge growth. It's a relatively contained market cap, and the sales growth is accelerating tremendously.
I was joking with that, but that's fine.
But their customers never look up the data. So I'm saying, if I was a stockbroker, this is an easy sell. It needs to have more research around it, and that's why I've got to do more work on it. But because of the breakout, and because I was preempting this breakout, sometimes I put on positions, and then as the position works, I really start digging in on the trend. But there's a million ideas why this could work. And most of all, we're in a risk-on environment. We have, this obviously Amgen has legitimate earnings, trading at like 18 times earnings, and is growing. And while it's not growing fast like a growth company, the price action suggests that there is something fundamentally going on. So that is one idea I like. The other one I like is NASDAQ. NDAQ, they actually changed their logo to a biotech logo. So NASDAQ switched from their logo to the biotech logo. Wrote about it last week. Stock kind of had a false breakout, so it's something to look at. And if you didn't add it when I added it, you may want to see it kind of just strengthen and take out all-time highs again. But if we go back into a longer term look at NASDAQ, the real breakout here was back in 2016, new CEO. But back then, FANG was working, so why would you look at the NASDAQ, right? So again, relatively, when this broke out, everything was breaking out in 2016, and the market was going to go on an incredible run. And so, relatively, a lot of stuff worked. What I believe is going on with NASDAQ is it was underperforming for so long, and it is such an important company as IPOs kind of catch up over the next 5-10 years. Now that this ICO and crypto market is kind of stalled, I think you'll see a lot more of these great companies realizing that they can go public. Again, all these ideas is based on momentum, meaning that the market's got to stay strong. So, these things can change week to week, but this is an idea that I feel is relatively undervalued for the business that they have. Trading at a 15 billion market cap, doing, I forgot to look up the actual sales number, but if I look at the revenue and the earnings per share, and I see a little bit of acceleration over the last few years, and the fact that the CEO's been shedding like some of their crappy underperforming businesses. I like this on a relative play for people that are looking for exposure to the NASDAQ. So that was another idea that I had. And now let's get to the rest of the markets, Ivan. Weed.
So I hope you're right about. I hope you're right about Amgen, because if Amgen really goes up 20%, that means that many other small cap biotechs.
So let's look at the ones you like. I know we talked about MGEN and SGEN.
So the two that I currently like the most are Arrowhead Pharma. Had a big volume breakout last week, and it's consolidating through time.
Are you long this currently? I mean, the company is bleeding money, but you're long this.
Yeah, I own a little bit, and then the other one that I like, and it's setting up.
Beautiful.
It's MedSpace.
Their medical research. So a lot of these medical research, which I was going to get to, and these are unbelievable setups. So they got earnings breakouts, gap breakouts, consolidating. No one's ever heard of them.
Yeah, major
company though, isn't it? It's $218 million company.
It's a $2 billion company.
Oh, 2 billion. Sorry. Okay. I still have trouble reading that on MarketSmith. I got to call them. They should just make that simpler. I think they're so used to like the old world of like less than $1 billion companies. So I'm going to make a note to let them know on that. Okay, so it's a $2 billion company. Yeah, Ivan, nice one. Is this showing up? So you're getting a lot of biotech showing up?
On the SO50 list, not a lot, but
they're small. But like you yourself as a swing trader are seeing a lot of these.
Oh yeah, there are a few setups that are showing up, and I had exposure to them. On SL50, we have Amgen. We
Oh, it
have.
showed up. Amgen's on the SL50.
Oh, it's been there for a few weeks actually. I don't know which.
Maybe that's why I put it on. Sorry, I've been stuck traveling.
This is 6th week, so it's just breaking out.
Yeah. Okay, let's stay on topic with biotech. Okay, so that I'm glad, because I probably originally got the idea from it showing up in the SL50 list. Okay, so I like this, Ivan, MedPace. Okay, ARWR. Anything else in biotech showing up?
I mean, these are the two that I like the most right now. I mean, there are others that are climbing.
I own this one as part of my Gen trifecta, so I own SGen, MGen, and Amgen now. Those are my three.
Yeah.
And my Gen kind of pulled back here, but nothing to scare me. So it was looking beautiful, and it pulled back to the breakout area here.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So do you want to keep talking about biotech, or do you want to?
Let's go to weed, because I miss weed, but there's some really interesting companies. Have you traded this at all?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, on the Friday that I read.
We talked about them a few weeks ago, and you pulled a couple up, but like.
That I read the news that Constellation is buying a 30% stake in on Canopy. Like on that same day, I bought Tilray, the new IPO, and
remember.
And Crown, and they've done really well since then.
Yeah, this Crown. So I follow Todd Harrison in this space. I own this GWPH. I'm kind of the wimpier play on this.
Yeah, they're underperforming for some reason.
No, I know it's a different space. If I look at one that I really noticed today, and this is one that Danny shared with me because he liked this company a year ago at $20 a share, is this Turning TPB, which makes the rolling papers, but it's just kind of a roll up of brands in snuff, chewing tobacco, rolling papers, now vape. It's been a beautiful. This is kind of, sometimes you get lucky, meaning fundamentally, this chart broke out last year in May, or this year in May. And it came onto our screens. And it was a small company, and it got brought to my attention. It was too early for me. And if you would this is going up on the weed play. The stock just doubled. Because it's a real company, and this is, again, with Amgen, how you could speculate that Amgen could get into the weed business in terms of not so much the weed business, but in the CBD. Okay, sweetie, I'll see you at home. So the CBD business. So Turning Point brand, I think that's going to be a trader's vehicle, TPB. If you like weed, this is a back-end way to play it. And I think if you really want to stretch it, obviously, you can get to liquor, and you can even get to some of the biotech stocks, saying as CBDs become popular, that the biotech companies or some of the drug companies are going to get into this space. So look at Pfizer. If we looked at, I don't think so much Philip Morris. They've already played their hand and they've missed this trend. But I think if you look at Pfizer, for example, some of the drug companies, I think you could start seeing them getting into the weed space around CBDs. For painkilling and stuff. So I think you're just going to see this is going to go on for a long time. And I was talking to a lot of friends in this business, and the U.S. screwed this up, right? U.S. It was so tough on the weed business that everybody moved to Canada. Canada opened their arms for this business. So all this stuff was happening in Canada for 3-4 years. People were making fortunes in penny stocks, in the weed stocks. That fever has now spread to the United States. In the United States, while it has a fever for penny stocks, institutional money tries to put money to work in larger cap names. And this is why you see drug companies moving, this Turning Points brands, some of these later stage IPOs that are taking off, like Ivan said, at TLRY. The way to stay up on this, my nephews are staying up on this by reading StockTwits Trending, by reading our daily email, which kind of pokes stuff at this, by obviously following guys like Ivan at Market Wisdom here that I do the show with. But Ivan, TLRY, do you still own it?
No, I don't. I sold it.
Yeah, but you did well.
I did very well. It's probably one of my best performers this year.
Okay, I remember you bringing that up in Crown. Okay, so let's go to bullets and guns. I brought up that company and we didn't pull the trigger on it. Not Ruger, it was that software company, but Ruger, a ShotSpotter. Look at this thing. And we talked about it in the high 40s.
Yeah, it's on the SO50 list actually.
Ah,
Let's see. I think it joined a few weeks ago. Oh, right here.
I talked out of it. But anyways, and just traveling, and I didn't want to put on new ideas. Second week on the list, up 30% since we talked about it here. So again, the momentum is working. And I know if you own crypto and you're in the wrong things, it's a horrible time to be alive right now. But this is why understanding money flows and having a list like Ivan's and mine at Market Wisdom really help. AAXN is one of our favorites. If you're going to own this space, tasers and cameras. I love the name change. No one cares about this company anymore. People, it was such a love-hate thing with Taser. I think the name change just worked perfectly for this company a year ago or 2 years ago. And it's diversified, kind of like a weapons company, weapons and communications company for police. And so I think this is just going to be one of those monster brands that nobody kind of ever discusses. Whereas when it was called Taser, that's all people talked about, was tasing people. So bravo on this company. Don't own the stock, but I think if you want to have access or some exposure to this space, it's a big company too. So it's not some small company. It's a $4 billion company, Ivan.
Yeah.
But I mean, these type of brands could be $20 to $50 billion brands, the way the world is headed. So, but I haven't done enough work on it, but this is now a major diversified military and law enforcement brand. Robots, Ivan, continue to do great, especially if you're interested in bombing people with drones. Here's AVAV. We've talked about it, I don't know, since $70. It's crossed 100 today. It's not
there's earnings growth.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to look back at this point. This is just the best way to play drones. It's military. And this company is a pure play for the U.S. government. And, congrats to people that, I've kind of traded in and out over the years, but I've missed this huge move. But we've talked about it here. Has this been on the SL50, Ivan?
I'm not sure. I don't think so. Let's see. I don't think it currently is, but it's been there before.
All right, let's go through the 50. Not much has changed. I think what's going to continue to dominate is what's been dominating, and it's been hard because it's hard to make entries into these stocks, but the enterprise stocks. If you look at, for a year now, these stocks have just controlled our list and controlled our portfolio, from Twilio to Zendesk to Tableau, Coupa. Let's scroll down, Ivan. There's just not much name changes here. If this list is, in a great market, is just crushed, and it's kept Mongo. So enterprise continues to work. One stock, Ivan, that you and I traded was Roku here, and that came on the list today, right? Or is it new on the list?
No, it's been on the list for a few weeks. Yes, it's new all-time highs today.
Gee, that looks like it could really go. We bought it a couple weeks ago here on the show, and I talked about it on the stream in the low 60s. Do you still own it?
I do, yeah.
I think unbelievable. I hate the product personally. That's kind of kept me out of it for a while, but the setup is just beautiful. It is just the poor man's Netflix / Comcast play, and breaking out of a, back when it hit 60 after its IPO and looked like it was just done down to the 20s. And this is no GoPro at this point. So a while it looked like it could be the second coming of a GoPro. And for whatever reason, that is not happening. And obviously, it's hard to tell because it loses money, but it is really growing. And people use their Roku. We use Apple TV. Do you have a Roku, Ivan?
No, I have Amazon TV, but I barely use it.
Yeah. So anyways, it's kind of like poor man's operating system for television, and it's big. And so congrats to Longzero, but that's one that now is back on the list.
Starbucks on your 8 to 80 list?
No, Starbucks I swapped for Lulu and McDonald's about 6 months ago.
Uh-huh.
Good swap. We swapped out a Starbucks around 56, 57. It was going nowhere, and we were just too many ideas, and we swapped into Lulu.
Yeah, it's gone nowhere for what, 3 years now. But what's interesting about Starbucks is that they just opened their first store in Italy, and they have that new concept called Starbucks Reserve.
Mm-hmm.
They're like a store that is 4 or 5 times bigger than the usual size, and it's like a piece of art, basically.
Good idea.
And I think that new concept is going to change people's perception of Starbucks, and we might see their growth revived.
Yeah, I hope so. Listen, it's a great American brand. There's too many of them for what the brand stood for, just like McDonald's, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I do not like the product. And if I have a choice, I do not go into a Starbucks. And in most great cities, you have hundreds of choices. So I think that's been their problem for 3 years. Nothing wrong with their margins and their products for the masses, but it's already in the masses. So I think you're right. That is an interesting idea. It would be interesting, if it's like an Apple store for coffee, but they are going up against Nespresso, which, my wife loves. And when we're in the mall, and when we're rarely in a mall, she dives into an Nespresso to load up on Nespresso. I wake up to an espresso. I'm not a coffee connoisseur, so it's good enough for me. I don't want 10 coffees a day. So I think Starbucks has problems, and that's why I swapped it out for Lulu and McDonald's. McDonald's, three meals a day. I love their breakfast. The swap out of Starbucks worked for the subscribers. McDonald's has not worked, but definitely hasn't underperformed in the last few months, and it just gave me that exposure to restaurants that I still like, and I do love McDonald's products. I
think Lulu is a great catch for McDonald's, so it's a good pair.
Yeah, it was a good pair. I wanted to add a second name. I wanted to keep a restaurant exposure, but Lulu's obviously been the great. It is an 8 to 80 brand, and it's just a lot more risk. It's a much earlier 8 to 80 brand than I'm used to, and okay, you're pulling up Chipotle's here, and I got to say that I'm bullish. I'm back eating the product. My kids still love the product. There was a quiet period where it just looked overbuilt, the stores, but they are busier. They're doing the mall stuff. Like if you're in a mall, God forbid, but if you are in a mall, it is the best food in a mall other than Five Guys. And there's only so many burgers you can eat at my age. So I like Chipotle's. I just feel there hasn't been, I don't know. I mean, the chart looks good, Ivan. What do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely bullish. It's $5 near its 50-day moving average, and now it's moving up. That's a bullish setup, and they're
good international potential. Let me see the monthly on Chipotle's. I wish McDonald's hadn't sold that. Wow, what a fucking disaster that was for 3-4 years there. Tell you what, I don't love it because there's enough good ideas, and my 8 to 80 list has my restaurant exposure. I've gone with McDonald's, but Chipotle is one of those stocks that really could outperform. But there's enough good ideas. Let's move on. China, what's not working?
Yeah, that's basically the only thing that is not working.
We should talk about it because I like Tencent, and I've been wrong here the last month or two, or 3 or 4. But it's in my 8 to 80 list, so I thought I'd bring it up.
So the Chinese tech ETFs, CQQQ and KWEB, they're both down about 30% for the past 6 months, both down 30% below their 52-week highs.
Yeah. Well, you've got all kinds of, this is the risk of investing in China. I've disclosed it when I did. I don't like doing it, but Tencent and Alibaba interested me because the products. Like WeChat, it's hard to mess up WeChat. Alibaba looks like a mess. I wouldn't touch it right now. And that's, even though it's in my 8 to 80, I wouldn't buy that stock. Tencent, because of the products, and I've been wrong, I don't chase 8 to 80 brands. I like to buy them on 25, 30% dip. And so obviously at 42, when I start buying again, it's too early. But again, this is an 8 to 80 brand. And until I see a replacement to WeChat and the fact that WePay and the dominance in terms of mobile and being operating systems, this is the risk for owning China. It can always look really bleak, but there's no reason to be a hero, but these are in my 8 to 80 list. There's way better ideas for new positions, but I'm not scared of owning Tencent down 30%, almost 35% from its all-time highs with the brand and the products that they have and the reach. So that's why the 8 to 80 list exists. But China is not friendly right now. It's just a mess. The rhetoric out of the U.S., the fact that Jack Ma is stepping out, who really believes anybody, and the fact that those are two major factors, and the fact that they're really expensive stocks and priced for perfection. What is this? What is this Crane shares, Ivan?
Oh, it was the internet sector ETF, the Chinese internet.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you loved it at 65, you gotta love it at 45, and because we're talking about the whole index, and this is the kind of stuff that you're supposed to, as an investor, love. If you truly have done your work and believe China internet sector is going to be strong, this is when you step up to own some Chinese internet stocks. Doesn't mean they can't drop another 50%, but I mean, you were buying an index of some of the greatest companies in the world and the biggest market. So you kind of hope for these type of things. What you need is a catalyst to kind of reverse trend here and stop the bleeding. And I think the rhetoric out of the United States is just not good. It's working. I mean, it's working as to talk down Chinese stocks. And so, I just think you got to be really careful. Now let's go back to some winners in the United States that we've talked about. Match.com, Tinder.
Yeah, it's setting up for a breakout.
No, it is popping out. I mean, it's just one that we've been long since the teens. It looks as good today as it did 40 points ago, meaning now it's institutionally owned. I don't know. Like, these are the ones that, like, I can't believe I'm paying, I haven't sold it and it's up 300%. And, all of a sudden it doubles again. I mean, this can be $100 stock.
Yeah, especially considering that their short interest is still pretty high. They have 10 days of short interest.
10 days of short. People really think this is fake, and it isn't. And it's overvalued, but like, it could be overvalued at 100. So again, if you're going to do new entries, I'd like to set up here. I don't think I like the fact that it feels like everything's priced in here. It's not like an undiscovered company at this point, but institutionally, and in terms of their growth, and in terms of the amount of people in 190 countries use Tinder, and that's just Tinder. There's something for every age group with Match.com. I don't know. I think it's kind of thing that like no one can destroy. So congrats to the people that stayed long that. I think we'll end it, Ivan, with say like Chase. Like, what do you think? What do you think here, Ivan, on new positions?
I'm bullish. I think it's a market of stocks. Last week we saw a quick pullback, a little scare out of some of the momentum stocks, but I think that's just a normal pullback within a bull market. I continue to see quite a few stocks that are breaking out. They're holding their breakouts. They're setting up, and as they say, bull markets rotate through sector rotation. So this is exactly what we're seeing. For example, today we saw an extreme strength in transportation.
Oh, did we, Ivan?
Yes, I mean they broke out.
Oh, thank you for bringing this up. Wow,
all the truckers are breaking out. I bought some of this one.
Beauty. So that's Echo.
Yeah.
Never even heard of it.
And there are quite a few. And the whole sector is just.
I'm glad Thanks for telling me, Ivan. I hate making money. Thanks for sharing that. We're only partners.
So that's it. If you want to end with that for now.
What's he hiding from me? Okay, so that's a very bullish sign. I think the most bullish sign that I see, the most bullish sign, Ivan, and again, this can change next week, is we've had, like I said, a 30% pullback in Chinese. This is stocks that like everybody started buying. We've had an 85% pullback in crypto and a 35%, 40% pullback in Chinese internet index. Okay, this index, there's going to be world chaos, whether you own the stocks or not. And another 10 or 15%, there will be world chaos if something happens to Chinese internet stocks. So we're that close to chaos, and the NASDAQ is not even flinching, and some of the riskiest sectors like biotech are breaking out. So we are either on the brink of catastrophe, and we'll know that pretty soon because a lot of breakouts won't work, or we are just sailing, and no one can wreck this market right now for whatever reasons. And so thinking about it just is costing you money. So, you know, you don't have to chase. There's lots of new setups. I think we discussed it. Biotech, enterprise, a little late stage, it feels. China, if you want to own some great companies and deep pullbacks. And then logistics and transportation's breaking out. And there's some interesting food stocks with McDonald's and Chipotle's. And then obviously Ivan and I got the market wisdom list, and hit us up on the streams if you want anything. I think I'm spent, Ivan.
Yes.
Happy New Year. If you could be one religion, would you be Jewish? You'd like Jews.
Sure, no problem.
No problem, Ivan says. Okay, you're the man.
All right.